The Unbending Commander. Commander Kira Voss stood at the viewport of Frontier Station Helios, watching the distant stars with eyes that reflected their cold brilliance. Her tall, lean frame cast a long shadow across the polished floor, the blue-tinged skin of her species catching the artificial light. As the highest-ranking Altarian in the United Galactic Defense Force, her presence commanded respect throughout known space. 12 planetary campaigns, 47 direct combat engagements, and not a single defeat. Her record was unblemished, much like the ceremonial armor she wore even now, off-duty. Commander, the transport from Earth has docked. The security consultant has arrived. Lieutenant Nex's voice carried a note of hesitation. Kira didn't turn. And why should I care about another soft-skinned human expert? The word expert dripped with disdain. Central Command wastes resources on needless oversight. Admiral Thrace specifically requested him. After the incidents in the Procyon system, we lost Procyon because of tactical errors by planetary command, not security breaches, Kira interrupted. But I will humor Central Command, for now. Where is this consultant? Combat training deck. He requested to observe today's elite squad exercises. Kira's mouth tightened. The human had bypassed proper protocol, arriving on her station and immediately inserting himself into military operations without formal introduction to command. Typical human presumption. The combat deck buzzed with activity when Kira arrived. Her elite warriors, all Altarians selected for their exceptional combat abilities, moved through complex drills with precision that would intimidate most species. She spotted the human immediately, unremarkable in height, perhaps in his 4th decade of life by human standards, with steel-gray hair cropped close to his scalp. He wore simple black attire, no insignia, no decorations, nothing to indicate rank or accomplishment. Commander Voss. He nodded without offering the customary salute. Marcus Reed. You've bypassed 3 protocols since boarding my station, Mr. Reed. Her voice was ice. Time is a resource neither of us can afford to waste, Commander. His eyes, a strange pale blue that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light, assessed her calmly. I've reviewed your security protocols. They're inadequate. The warriors nearest them fell silent, sensing confrontation. Kira felt heat rise to her face, the patterns on her skin darkening with anger. Inadequate. This station has maintained perfect security ratings for 6 consecutive cycles under my command. Reed merely raised an eyebrow. Perfect ratings mean you haven't been tested, not that you're prepared. Perhaps you'd care to test us yourself. The challenge emerged before she could reconsider. Challenges were not issued lightly among Altarians. They were sacrosanct, matters of honor that could not be withdrawn. To her surprise, Reed smiled. I thought you'd never ask. The training circle cleared immediately. Warriors formed a perfect ring, their expressions ranging from anticipation to outright amusement. Humans were known for many things: adaptability, ingenuity, persistence, but they were not renowned warriors. Their physiology was unremarkable, their reflexes average at best. Kira removed her command jacket, revealing the training armor beneath. She entered the circle with practiced ease, her movements fluid, confident. Reed stepped in without changing his simple attire, carrying nothing, seemingly unprepared. Standard rules, she announced. First to yield or become incapacitated loses. Reed nodded once. Whenever you're ready, Commander. The implied dismissal in his tone triggered something primal in Kira. She attacked without warning, a devastating combination of strikes that had disarmed and disabled opponents across 12 systems. Her movements were blindingly fast, the product of genetic enhancement and decades of relentless training. What happened next would be replayed in her mind for days to come. Reed moved, not quickly, but efficiently. A slight shift in posture, a subtle redirection of her momentum, and suddenly Kira found herself off balance. Before she could recover, a precise strike to her midsection folded her forward, and a sweep of his leg sent her crashing to the deck with enough force to knock the breath from her lungs. The entire exchange had taken less than 3 seconds. Silence fell over the combat deck. Kira lay stunned, both physically and mentally. It wasn't possible. No human should have been able to counter her attack, much less defeat her so completely. Reed offered his hand. The problem with perfect records, Commander, is that they create blind spots. You fight to maintain your reputation, not to win. She ignored his hand, rising with as much dignity as she could muster. A fortunate counter. Nothing more. If that helps you sleep at night. He turned to address the assembled warriors. Your commander is one of the finest warriors I've ever faced. But even the finest warrior can be defeated by what they refuse to see. That night, after the humiliation had settled into a cold, hard knot in her stomach, Kira reviewed the security footage of their brief encounter. Frame by frame, she analyzed what had happened, searching for the trick, the deception that must have been employed. There was none. Reed's movements were textbook perfect. If such a textbook existed, no wasted motion, no telegraphed intent, just pure, efficient action. A message notification interrupted her analysis. Anonymous source, routed through 7 proxies to reach her personal terminal. Curious, she opened it. The message contained only an image, a security schematic of Helios Station, with 3 sections highlighted in red. Beneath it, 6 words. They are already NSID. Look deeper. Kira's blood ran cold. She immediately initiated a security scan of the highlighted sections. Maintenance sublevel B, environmental control, and the primary shield generator. Standard protocols showed nothing amiss, but when she bypassed the automated systems and accessed the raw data feeds, there it was. Microscopic anomalies in the power consumption patterns. Someone had created a perfect overlay of normal operations, but the power drain was fractionally higher than it should be. A second message appeared. Now you see. Lieutenant Nex, she called over her comm. Locate Reed and bring him to my office. Immediately. When Reed arrived, his expression was unsurprised. You found something. Did you hack my station's security to prove a point? Her tone was dangerous. No. His answer was simple. But I needed to see if you would recognize a real threat when presented with evidence. Explain yourself now, or I'll have you in the brig. Reed sat without invitation. 3 months ago, a Terran outpost in the Epsilon sector went dark. 2 weeks later, the same happened at Outpost Vega 7. In both cases, security logs showed nothing unusual until the attack was already underway. What attack? By whom? That's the concerning part. We don't know. Whoever they are, they leave nothing behind. No survivors, no trace of their methods, just empty stations and complete data wipes. Kira frowned. And you believe Helios is next? Based on what evidence? The same power anomalies appeared at both stations in the weeks preceding their fall. Reed's eyes held hers. Whatever is causing them has been installed on your station. The only question is when they'll activate. Why wasn't I informed through official channels? Because we have reason to believe there's a leak within Central Command. Information about our investigation has been reaching the enemy. Kira stood, pacing the small confines of her office. I don't trust you, Reed. I'm not asking for trust, Commander. I'm asking you to protect your station from a very real threat. And how do you propose we do that, given that you believe our security is inadequate? Reed's smile was grim. First, we need to identify the infiltrators without alerting them. Then we spring our own trap. Kira felt the weight of command settle more heavily on her shoulders. Her perfect record, her reputation, suddenly seemed hollow in the face of this unknown threat. If Reed was right, her pride had blinded her to the danger facing her station and her people. Very well, she conceded. But know this, if you're manipulating this situation, I will personally ensure you regret it. Fair enough, Reed replied. Now let's get to work. Time isn't on our side. As they began reviewing station schematics, Kira couldn't shake the memory of how easily this human had bested her in combat. It raised an unsettling question. What else had she been wrong about? In the maintenance sublevel, a shadow moved where no crew was scheduled. A panel slid open, revealing specialized equipment that shouldn't exist aboard Helios. A gloved hand adjusted something inside, then replaced the panel, leaving no evidence of tampering. Across the stars, a message was transmitted. Infiltration complete. Awaiting activation order. The countdown to chaos had begun. Shadows in the system. The mood aboard Helios Station had shifted subtly in the 3 days since Marcus Reed's arrival. Whispers followed Commander Kira Voss through the corridors, hushed conversations that died when she approached, sideways glances from her own warriors. News of her defeat had spread like a virus through the station's gossip networks, metastasizing into wild speculation about her fitness for command. The human consultant has requested access to our defense grid algorithms, Lieutenant Nex reported, his expression carefully neutral. Standard protocols require your authorization. Kira looked up from the security logs she'd been reviewing. Dark circles had formed under her eyes, a visible sign of the sleepless nights spent hunting for evidence of infiltration. Denied. He gets access to environmental systems and power distribution only. Commander, Nex hesitated, mandibles clicking nervously, given the potential threat. Given the potential threat, we maintain security protocols, she snapped. For all we know, Reed himself could be part of this infiltration. The thought had plagued her since their confrontation. His combat skills were too refined, his knowledge of Helios too comprehensive. Trust came neither easily nor quickly to Altarians, and Kira's trust had been eroded by Reed's unexplained abilities. As you wish, Commander. Nex turned to leave, then paused. The neural interface maintenance cycle is scheduled for tomorrow. Will you be participating as usual? The neural interface, a direct connection between senior officers and the station's core systems, allowed for instantaneous response in crisis situations. Maintenance required a complete shutdown and reinitialization, leaving officers temporarily without enhanced capabilities. Reschedule it. We can't afford vulnerability right now. The system flags postponements beyond scheduled windows. It would raise alerts at Central Command. Kira frowned. Another complication. Fine. Proceed as scheduled, but stagger the downtime. I don't want all senior officers offline simultaneously. After Nex departed, Kira returned to the security logs. Something about the way Reed had accessed the maintenance sublevel bothered her. He knew exactly where to look, which panels to check. Either he was exceptionally intuitive, or he's been here before, she murmured. A quick search through personnel records showed no prior assignments to Helios for anyone named Marcus Reed. Expanding the search to include temporary consultants, engineers, and civilian contractors yielded nothing. Reed was a ghost. Her door chimed. Speak of the devil. Enter, she called, closing the personnel search window. Reed stepped in, carrying a data tablet. You denied my access request. You haven't earned that level of trust, Mr. Reed. This isn't about trust, he countered, placing the tablet on her desk. It's about functionality. I've identified 7 vulnerabilities in the environmental systems alone. Whoever is infiltrating this station will exploit these weaknesses when they move. Kira glanced at the tablet. The analysis was thorough, highlighting subtle but critical flaws in system redundancies. How did you find these so quickly? I helped design the base architecture for these systems 15 years ago. Reed's admission was casual, as if discussing the weather. The UGDF adapted the technology from Earth's deep space program. That's not in your file. Much of what I've done isn't in any file, Commander. His eyes held hers steadily, which is why I'm still alive to do this job. Kira stood, moving to the viewport. Stars glittered against the void, unchanging and indifferent to the dramas playing out beneath them. Who are you really, Reed? Not a security consultant. Your combat skills alone tell me that much. Does it matter? We have the same goal, preventing whatever happened at those other stations from happening here. It matters to me. She turned to face him. I don't follow blind. Something shifted in Reed's expression, a momentary softening. Fair enough. I was Special Forces, then Intelligence. Now I'm independent. Central Command contracts me for situations that require deniability. A mercenary. If that label helps you categorize me, sure. Reed moved to stand beside her at the viewport. But I've never betrayed a contract, and I've never left allies behind. A distant alarm chimed softly, drawing Kira's attention to her console. Environmental fluctuation in Sector 7. Minor, within tolerance limits. Reed's posture changed instantly, alertness replacing casual confidence. Show me. The display revealed a 0.2% drop in oxygen levels, followed by an immediate correction. Nothing that would trigger emergency protocols. It's a test, Reed said, eyes narrowing. They're measuring response times, seeing if anyone notices. Or a routine adjustment by the atmospheric regulators, Kira countered, though uncertainty crept into her voice. Check historical data. Has this happened before? A few commands brought up comparative data. Similar fluctuations had occurred 6 times in the past week, more frequent than the previous 6 months combined. We need to set a trap, Reed said. Make them think they found a vulnerability we haven't noticed. When they exploit it, we track them to their source. Kira considered the proposal. It meant deliberately creating a weak point in her station's defenses, something that ran counter to every instinct she possessed. And if they recognize the trap, then we'll know more about their capabilities than we did before. Before she could respond, her communication panel chimed. Commander, we have a situation in medical. Chief Medical Officer Trell's voice was tight with controlled urgency. Patient exhibiting unusual symptoms after routine neural interface adjustment. Who? Kira demanded. Engineering Specialist Varn. He began experiencing severe headaches, then collapsed. When he regained consciousness, he attempted to access restricted systems. When questioned, he became violent. Kira and Reed exchanged glances. Isolate him. Full containment protocols. We're on our way. As they hurried through the corridors, Reed maintained pace easily despite his shorter human stride. Neural interfaces provide direct access to station systems, he said. Perfect vector for infiltration. Impossible, Kira replied. The interfaces are isolated during maintenance. No external connections, unless someone compromised the maintenance equipment itself. The medical bay was in controlled chaos when they arrived. 2 security officers restrained the thrashing form of Specialist Varn, a veteran engineer with 15 years of service. His eyes were wide, unseeing, and blood trickled from his nose and ears. He's been seizing intermittently, Dr. Trell reported, her slender fingers manipulating holographic displays of Varn's neural activity. Brain patterns are severely disrupted, showing signatures I've never encountered before. His interface, Reed asked. We removed it when the symptoms began. Standard procedure. Trell indicated a small device sealed in a containment field. Initial scans show nothing abnormal, but you can't scan for what you don't know to look for, Reed finished. He approached the containment field, studying the neural interface. Commander, when is your maintenance scheduled? Tomorrow morning, she answered, understanding dawning, along with 5 other senior officers. Reed nodded grimly. Then we have until tomorrow to find the sabotage point in the maintenance system. After that, he didn't need to complete the thought. If the interfaces were compromised, the infiltrators would gain direct access to Helios through its own command staff. Doctor, complete isolation for Specialist Varn. No communication, no visitors, no exceptions. Kira's orders were clipped precise, and I want detailed scans of that interface sent to my secure terminal. What about the scheduled maintenance? Trell asked. Kira looked to Reed, weighing options. If we cancel, we alert them that we're aware. But if we proceed, we risk losing more officers, Reed countered. Unless we use it as our trap, Kira finished, the plan forming in her mind. We proceed with maintenance for non-essential personnel first, monitor for tampering, then trace it back to the source. Using your people as bait, Reed observed, his tone neutral. Using volunteer security personnel who understand the risks, Kira corrected. My station, my responsibility. For the first time since their confrontation, Reed's expression showed something like respect. It could work, but we'll need to move fast and quiet. The moment they suspect we're onto them. The unspoken consequence hung in the air between them. Later, as they examined the maintenance equipment in an isolated lab, Reed worked with unexpected expertise, disassembling components with practiced efficiency. You know this equipment well for a security consultant, Kira observed. Reed didn't look up from his work. I know many things well, Commander. It keeps me alive. Like fighting skills that can defeat an enhanced Altarian warrior. His hands paused momentarily. That was not my first encounter with Altarian combat techniques. Kira studied his profile, the scars that were visible at his temple and along his jawline. You've fought my kind before. Fought alongside, mostly. He resumed work, removing a microscopic component. Your people make exceptional allies in the right circumstances, and in the wrong circumstances. Reed finally looked up, meeting her gaze directly. In the wrong circumstances, Commander Voss, there are few enemies more dangerous than an Altarian who believes they cannot lose. The statement hung between them, layered with meaning beyond the obvious. Kira felt the sting of remembered defeat, but also a growing understanding of the man before her. Whatever Reed was, he was not simple, nor was he what he appeared to be. Here, he said suddenly, holding up a nearly invisible filament extracted from the maintenance device. Molecular transmitter, sophisticated work. When activated, it would rewrite portions of the neural interface programming during the maintenance cycle. To what end? Control, Reed said simply. Access. Whoever placed this could potentially override the conscious decisions of anyone with an affected interface. The implications chilled Kira to her core. My officers, my warriors, turned against you and each other. Reed carefully contained the filament. The perfect infiltration. No need to bring in outside forces when you can turn a station against itself. Kira's communicator chimed with urgency. Commander, Lieutenant Nex's voice was strained. We have multiple system failures in sectors 3 through 7. Life support fluctuating. Security doors malfunctioning. Communications dropping in and out. Reed's expression hardened. It's starting. They must have realized we found their device. Security teams to affected sectors, Kira ordered. Full emergency protocols. Next, lock down the command center until I arrive. Commander, Reed said as she turned to leave, whatever happens, remember, they want chaos. It's when people follow procedures blindly that they're most vulnerable. Kira paused at the door. Are you suggesting I abandon protocols in a crisis? I'm suggesting you remember why those protocols exist in the first place. Reed gathered the equipment. They're tools, not masters. The moment they become rigid dogma is the moment you've lost your greatest advantage. And what advantage is that, Mr. Reed? His smile was grim. The same one that let a soft-skinned human put an undefeated Altarian warrior on her back. Adaptability. As alarms began blaring throughout the station, Kira realized the battle for Helios had truly begun, and that perhaps her greatest weakness had never been an external threat, but her own certainty of invincibility. The siege of Helios. Chaos erupted across Helios Station with methodical precision. Emergency bulkheads slammed down in seemingly random patterns, cutting off entire sections. Gravity fluctuated wildly in residential quarters, sending furniture and personnel tumbling. Communication systems emitted bursts of painful static before failing entirely. Kira fought her way toward the command center, Reed at her side. 3 security teams had already gone silent, their last transmissions reporting unusual behavior among certain crew members. They're using the compromised interfaces, Reed shouted over the blaring alarms as they ducked under a half-closed bulkhead. Anyone who underwent maintenance in the past week could be affected. That's over 30 personnel, Kira replied grimly, checking her tactical display. The station schematic showed spreading areas of system failure or unknown status. We need to reach central control, regain command authority. A group of maintenance workers approached from an intersecting corridor, their movements oddly synchronized. Kira recognized the vacant expression that had marked Specialist Farn's breakdown. "Commander," one called, his voice flat, "you are required to undergo immediate neural interface adjustment. Please comply." Compromised, Reed muttered, drawing a compact energy weapon from beneath his jacket. Non-lethal settings only. They're victims, not enemies. Kira nodded, adjusting her own sidearm. Cover the right flank. We move on my mark. The ensuing confrontation was brief but intense. The affected crew moved with unnatural coordination, as if guided by a single mind. Kira and Reed worked with unexpected harmony, covering each other's movements, predicting attacks before they manifested. They disabled the group with precision strikes and minimal force, then secured them with emergency restraints. "Your combat skills are improving, Commander," Reed noted as they continued toward command. "You're less predictable than before." "I learned from my mistakes," she replied tersely. "Unlike you, I don't have the luxury of mysterious origins and classified training." Reed's smile was fleeting. "The luxury of my background comes with its own price." They reached the command center access corridor to find Lieutenant Nex defending the sealed doors against two security officers whose eyes held the same vacant stare. Nex's left arm hung limply at his side, scorched by weapons fire. "Commander," he acknowledged with relief as Kira and Reed dispatched the compromised officers. "Status report," Kira demanded, examining the security override on the command center doors. 18 confirmed compromised personnel, possibly more unidentified. Internal sensors are failing sequentially. Main reactor showing unusual power fluctuations. Nex's mandibles clicked rapidly, an Alterian sign of extreme stress. And there's something else. Before communications failed, we received an encrypted transmission from an unregistered vessel approaching on stealth trajectory. "They're coming to claim their prize," Reed said, his expression darkening. The sabotage, the compromised interfaces, it was all preparation for an external attack. The command center doors finally yielded to Kira's override. Inside, they found 4 officers at their stations, 2 unconscious on the floor, victims of Nex's defense, and critical systems flashing warning indicators across all displays. "Tactical. Give me defensive status," Kira ordered, moving to the central command position. "Shield generators at 60% capacity and falling," the tactical officer reported. "Automated defense systems offline. Communication with UGDF outposts blocked by unknown interference." "They've isolated us completely," Nex observed. "Standard infiltration protocol." Reed moved to the sensor station, inputting commands with surprising authority. "The approaching vessel is masking its signature, but based on mass and energy output, I estimate crew complement between 30 and 50. Special operations configuration." "Raiders?" Kira asked, reviewing defensive options. "Not raiders," Reed replied, his voice hardening. "Erasers." The unfamiliar term hung in the air before Kira demanded clarification. "Black operations units specializing in complete removal of evidence. They don't just attack, they erase all record that their targets ever existed." Reed's fingers flew across the interface. "They're responsible for the disappeared outposts. No survivors, no records, nothing left to find or investigate. Why? What purpose does erasing an entire station serve? Deniability? Fear? Or—" Reed hesitated. "Testing weapons or tactics without leaving evidence." A new alarm blared. Proximity alert. The vessel had accelerated, abandoning stealth for speed. "Boarding preparations," the tactical officer reported. "They're deploying to multiple access points." Kira assessed their situation with cold clarity. Command center security could be maintained temporarily, But with compromised crew members throughout the station and systems failing, defense was ultimately futile. "We need to evacuate," Reed stated, echoing her thoughts. "Abandon my station." The very suggestion violated everything Kira believed about command. Not abandon. Regroup. Reed's eyes held hers. "Sometimes victory requires temporary retreat. You can't win this fight conventionally, Commander." The sting of his words reminded her of their first encounter, the humiliation of defeat, but also the lesson it had taught her. Pride meant nothing if it led to destruction. "Lieutenant Nex, initiate Protocol Obsidian," she ordered. "All uncompromised personnel to Evacuation Point Delta. Essential data to secure storage. Prepare for staggered withdrawal." Nex stared in disbelief. "Commander, Protocol Obsidian is a contingency for unwinnable scenarios," Kira finished. "I'm well aware." As the remaining command staff rushed to implement her orders, Reed approached. "Obsidian. Last resort protocol. We withdraw to the auxiliary control hub in the asteroid belt, regroup with any UGDF reinforcements that respond to our emergency beacon, then counterattack when conditions favor success." Reed nodded appreciatively. "Tactical retreat to secure victory. Not what I expected from you." "You've made it abundantly clear that my expectations can be flawed, Mr. Reed." The admission cost her, but Kira forced herself to acknowledge the truth. "I don't intend to lose my station or my people to these erasers because of pride." The evacuation proceeded with disciplined urgency. Uncompromised personnel moved in small groups toward the emergency shuttle bays, avoiding main corridors where the affected crew members had established checkpoints. Kira and Reed led a team to secure their escape route, encountering sporadic resistance from both compromised crew and the first wave of boarders. Figures in sleek armor with no identifying marks. "Professional," Reed commented after they neutralized a 3-person boarding team. "Military precision, specialized equipment. Not common mercenaries." "You recognize their tactics," Kira observed, not a question but a statement. Reed's expression darkened. "Let's just say our paths have crossed before." They reached Evacuation Point Delta to find 37 uncompromised crew members preparing the last 2 shuttles. Medical Officer Trell was treating injuries, her slender fingers moving with practiced efficiency despite the chaos. "Commander," she greeted Kira. "We've stabilized the worst cases, but I've had to sedate 3 crew members who showed early signs of interface corruption. Can you reverse the effects?" Kira asked. Trell's expression was grim. "Not without understanding the technology better. It's like nothing I've seen before, almost organic in how it spreads through neural pathways." A massive impact shuddered through the station, throwing several personnel to the floor. "They're attacking the main reactor containment," the engineering chief reported. "Structural integrity compromised in sections 12 through 17. They're not just boarding. They're destroying the station," Nex realized. "But why? If they wanted control." "They don't want control," Reed interrupted. "They want elimination. No evidence, no witnesses, no record." Kira made her decision. "Final evacuation order. All personnel board immediately. Lieutenant Nex, activate the emergency beacon." As crew members filed into the shuttles, Reed pulled Kira aside. "They'll track the shuttles. Standard procedure would be to eliminate all escape craft." "That's why we're not following standard procedure." Kira's mandibles clicked in what passed for an Altarian smile. "Protocol Obsidian includes a specific contingency for pursuit scenarios." Understanding dawned in Reed's eyes. "You're going to scatter the evidence they're trying to erase." "Precisely. 1 shuttle carries the senior staff and critical data to the rendezvous point. The other launches 5 automated escape pods in different directions, each broadcasting distress signals on UGDF emergency frequencies, creating multiple potential targets while ensuring at least some evidence survives." Reed nodded appreciatively. "Clever. I may be prideful, Mr. Reed, but I'm not stupid." Kira checked the final evacuation roster. "We launch in 3 minutes." As they prepared to board, a new alarm sounded. Proximity alert from a different vector. Reed checked the sensor readings, his expression shifting from concern to surprise. Another vessel, approaching at maximum speed. UGDF identification codes. Reinforcements already. Next questioned. That's not possible. The nearest patrol is days away. Reed studied the signature more carefully. It's not a patrol vessel. Smaller, faster. Special operations configuration. His eyes widened slightly. And it's transmitting a recognition code I haven't seen in years. Friendly? Kira demanded. Very. For the first time since they'd met, genuine emotion cracked Reed's professional facade. Relief, perhaps even hope. They must have been tracking me, or monitoring the station. The unknown vessel engaged the eraser ship with surprising effectiveness, drawing fire away from the station and creating a window for escape. Launch now, Kira ordered, while they're distracted. The shuttles detached from Helios as the station shuddered with new explosions. Through the viewport, Kira watched her command, her perfect record, her undefeated territory, begin to break apart under sustained attack. The emotion that welled within her wasn't what she expected. Not rage, not humiliation, but a strange sort of clarity. Some battles couldn't be won through strength alone. Sometimes survival itself was victory. Reed settled into the seat beside her as the shuttle accelerated away from the dying station. Your first retreat, Commander. My first strategic repositioning, she corrected, watching the tactical display as the automated escape pods launched in 5 different directions, each broadcasting distress signals. There's a difference. Indeed there is. Reed's gaze remained fixed on the unknown vessel engaging the eraser ship, and sometimes knowing when to step back is the most difficult lesson for a warrior to learn. As Helios receded behind them, Kira felt something shift within her, not defeat, but transformation. The unbending commander was learning to adapt. Pride was giving way to pragmatism. And in the process, she was becoming something potentially more dangerous than she had ever been before. Who are they? She asked, nodding toward the vessel covering their escape. Reed's expression remained unreadable. The past. My past, specifically. And perhaps, he added, studying the tactical display as their shuttle accelerated toward the rendezvous point. Our best hope for what comes next. Humanity's edge. The auxiliary control hub embedded in asteroid M47 was never meant for comfort. Bare metal walls, minimal life support, and cramped quarters made the surviving crew of Helios Station acutely aware of their precarious situation. 3 days had passed since their escape, with no word from UGDF command despite continuous distress signals. Kira stood before the tactical display, reviewing the sensor data for the 7th time that day. The mysterious vessel that had aided their escape had vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving behind only questions. Anything new? Reed asked, entering the small command center with 2 steaming cups of synthetic stimulant. Nothing, Kira admitted, accepting the offered cup. No response from command, no sign of the eraser vessel, no contact from your associates. They're not the type to linger. Reed sipped his drink, grimacing at the artificial taste. But they wouldn't have intervened without reason. Lieutenant Nex approached, his normally immaculate uniform showing signs of wear. Commander, Dr. Trell requests your presence in the medical bay. She believes she's made progress with the affected crew members. The makeshift medical facility contained 8 beds, 5 occupied by sedated personnel who had shown signs of neural interface corruption. Dr. Trell looked up from her examination of brain scan results, her slender features drawn with exhaustion. Commander, Mr. Reed, she acknowledged. I've isolated the mechanism by which the interface corruption spreads. It's remarkably